You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat Veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
A Canadian woman is concerned that her son, who is not interested in girly things, is being culturally conditioned into masculinity, and she is not happy about it. So she has decided to condition him into girly things. We're going to meet Sydney, Ireland, and talk about her brave and courageous journey for equality and the merciless mocking from people who just don't understand her plight. Trump's influence on businesses may have spread to even Apple now, a very liberal company. Tim Cook just announced that the tech company will invest $1 billion into the American manufacturing and seemingly to find favor with the Trump administration. Speaking of Apple, Elon Musk is saying that the technology that Tesla is using in its facilities for manufacturing is going to make the company worth more than Apple stock right now. The Late Show's Stephen Colbert hit our president pretty hard the other night on Monday night, and the comedian is refusing to apologize to those that are upset with his comments. Was he too harsh? Were his comments really jokes at all? What does this do for Colbert and commentators like him in the spotlight going forward? But first, the left is gearing up to protest the religious freedom order that rolls back federal LGBT protections for fear that will lead to discrimination. But are their fears justified? The reason Scott Shackford details the big differences between the first order that Trump shot down and this new one. We begin there right now on the Generation Y Conservative Podcast. Welcome to the Generation Y Conservative Podcast, where the truth is greater than agenda. That's my new tagline. Because of a lot of things that have been going on this year, I think you've been witness to some of them on the podcast when things come out and it turns out to be fake news, real fake news, not just Trump saying it's fake news, but plenty of stuff out there where the truth is definitely more important than agenda. And with that being said, I have to live up to that tagline myself too. And if something I report on within these podcasts, it turns out not to be true, I would encourage people to point them out, and I will do corrections in future podcasts to let people know that I made a mistake. So otherwise, if it's my opinion, stick with it, deal with it. So you can follow me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, where I stream this podcast live when I actually do record it. You can find me by searching for the Generation Y Conservative. You can also find me on Twitter at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. You can find me on YouTube, where most of the action goes down. You can find this podcast in its full length with HD audio and video by searching for the Generation Y Conservative. And I have been also splitting up these podcasts into smaller, digestible clips per the opinion and advice of my fellow guests today, for more digestible things to share on the internet, because sharing a 2.5-hour podcast and talking about certain subjects is, you'd have to skim through it and try to find those things. So it actually worked out really great last week. If you tuned in or if you saw any of the clips, I posted 2 individual clips from that, one being the main topic, which was Bill Nye the Science Guy being a complete idiot. And there's been more stories since then. I mean, there were 4 stories last week on him, and there's been more since then.
At least.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can listen to that. That was actually hilarious. I mean, we were just ripping into him and laughing the whole time.
Something like an engineer arguing with scientists.
Yeah.
About science.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one was just a funny little segment on the Nordstrom fake muddy jeans and the Starbucks unicorn frappuccino. So I would encourage you to check out those clips. They're both funny, and share them on your social media sites. When it comes to the live stream of the podcast here, I've moved to doing this just at random times now on Thursday or Friday. And it's important to let you know of 2 things that are going on in the social media world for content creators, not just myself. Number one, if you subscribe, which I would highly recommend, to my YouTube channel, what I want you to do is go there, subscribe to the channel, but then also there's a little bell symbol that appears on the YouTube channel as well that will actually send you a notification when something new is posted. I would encourage you to do that, because a lot of content creators on YouTube right now, whether it's not even politically motivated, it's just that there's so much content on YouTube now from everything. I mean, people posting their own private videos and everything, that the high-quality content gets pushed down in favor of just a mass flooding of this content. So what you want to do is hit that little bell feature. You'll get notifications when the people that you are subscribed to post content. In the same vein as that, if you are following the Generation Y Conservative Facebook page, I would encourage you to go to that page and hover over the following button and then go down and click on notifications for that as well. Because like I said, if I go live at any point in time, like today I'm doing it at 2 o'clock and recording the show for Sunday, which I'll get to on KLRNRadio, you can get notifications when people like me go live. Now, I have that set up for people like Dave Rubin, Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, so that I just get a notification and I can tune in as soon as they go live. And that's something that you'll want to do for this as well. I just mentioned that this is a recording for KLRNRadio. That's an internet radio where they re-air this podcast on Sundays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., but I have from 3 to 6, so if we go long, it's kind of nice that I have the availability to extend that out there if I want. Let's see, anything else? Well, you can find those audio-only podcasts as well on Google Play, Stitcher, and now they have me on iTunes as well through KLRN, their iTunes account, so that's great too. We're in a new month. We're in May. So, before I get to that, if you're tuning in right now, you have nothing else better to do while you're at work. You could be playing this in the background. That's kind of great about this. Mm-hmm. There's some people with professions that can't do that, like teachers. But then again, I would encourage you to throw that up onto a whiteboard and actually educate the students a little bit, maybe even. Well, it being May now, we're in a new month, and it's a new spotlighted charity. And this month's spotlighted charity was actually suggested by a follower of mine, and I know for a fact that they do great work here in the Lehigh Valley, and that is the Allentown Rescue Mission. So who is the Allentown Rescue Mission? The Allentown Rescue Mission has been serving the needs of the homeless and needy in the Lehigh Valley for more than 100 years. The mission provides rescue, rehabilitation, and restoration for homeless men in crisis through Christ-centered programs based on accountability and compassion. They are a non-denominational Christian social services organization which provides critically needed goods and services to homeless and impoverished men without regard to race, color, creed, national origin, or religion. The mission is not a church, but it does cooperate with many different churches that are concerned about poverty and the homeless. So just real quick, here's some interesting facts about the rescue mission. They do serve adult men. The average age of those men is 46 years old. As of in 2013, these are the statistics, 778 individuals, some of whom were served by more than one program, went through that mission in 2013. Their facilities are on Hamilton Street down in Allentown, Pennsylvania. They have 4 100-year-old buildings, 117 beds, 66 emergency shelter beds, and 51 program beds. There's also a 50-seat dining hall and a 56-seat worship center. They have 26 full-time staff members and 7 part-time staff members. So this is no small undertaking. I know that there's a spaghetti dinner every year that WAEB helps out with around here. They just do great things. Anytime I hear about local charities being tied up in causes and everything, I know that the Allentown Rescue Mission is a big one. You seem to be familiar with them as well. Okay.
Been around long enough if you live.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can learn more about donating or volunteering by visiting www.allentownrescuemission.org. If you're familiar with the show, then you already recognize the face of my guest tonight. It's Brant, so welcome back, Brant. Before we hit our first topic, early next week I will be going to see the Guardians of the Galaxy movie on Monday, and we'll be shooting a review for that movie afterwards. I already have about 3 other people that are interested in hopping in and cramming into my car for that one, so it should be a fun one, especially with the content of Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't seen these movie reviews that I've been doing yet, it's kind of interesting because a lot of people that follow along with the podcast haven't heard about the movie reviews and everything yet, which actually have been getting a pretty good amount of attention on YouTube. The last one that we did, you said are you going tonight?
Yeah, I'm going tonight, and I'll watch the review after. I didn't realize there was spoiler and non-spoiler versions, so I'll have to look that up. But I was waiting until I watched the movie to watch the review after.
Okay. So he's going to see The Fate of the Furious tonight. That was actually the last movie review that I did with Josh, another content creator on YouTube. Liberal, by the way, and we get along just swimmingly, so that's pretty interesting. Before that, we also reviewed the Beauty and the Beast movie, Logan, and Kong Skull Island. So we're building up content there for, reaching out to different audiences. It's a lot of fun. The last couple, I've had to edit out 20 minutes of laughing with me and my guests that kind of helped me out with those reviews. And I think that this upcoming one is going to be even funnier, to be honest with you. I mean, Chris Pratt, who is just in the news, if you want to go over to my Facebook page and check that out. I'm very impressed by Chris Pratt as an individual. I just wish he
wasn't on his apology.
I know, he keeps on apologizing over all these things.
The latest one was in sign language.
Yes. And I truly believe that's because he's a Christian.
No, him, Matthew McConaughey, they come out, they profess themselves as Christian, which is so unpopular in Hollywood, and absolutely, they get attacked from all sides.
Yeah.
Somebody's just...
In this case, he was doing, and I saw it, it was an Instagram video where he said, okay, guys, get ready, turn up your volume, and don't just read the subtitles, because when you actually go through and scroll through things, even on Facebook, you have to turn the volume on to hear it, otherwise you're just going to see the video scrolling, because it takes up more activity on your computer, and if you're already listening to the radio or something in the background, you don't want that playing. So, he's saying this so that you're reading the subtitles if you don't have the volume on. He wants you to hear the soundtrack of the movie, which is one of the main characters.
It's very clear what he was trying to do, and 99% of all the complaints that happen, you'll find that the actual quote-unquote affected group is not the ones complaining.
Right.
They don't care, right? Nobody was offended. It's these... you have... Oh, they offended the deaf. You ask any deaf person, were you offended? No, we don't care, right? It's just this group of people that just is looking for any group that could possibly be offended and then trying to make it go viral. It's... Yep. People need hobbies.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's just a matter of... Like you said, people are looking for something to be offended by. If they, especially if you're a painted target in Hollywood, he's like I said before. I don't know if it was you that I brought this up with or someone else. I don't know if he's liberal or conservative. What I do know is that he professes to be a Christian, and the fact that he put up a cross, like a massive cross, with his friends on Easter. I think it was this year.
Yes, it was.
Or last. It was either this year or last year. It pissed off people. That he would actually celebrate the holiday for what it's celebrated for.
Build a mosque in the middle of Valentine, nobody's going to care.
Yeah. So, all right. So our first topic tonight, as I mentioned before we got into everything, is about Trump's religious freedom order. So are you familiar with what's going on with that?
A little bit. Is that the one that negated the North Carolina...
Well, it kind of goes back and forth. So many people of faith were hoping that this would allow business owners of faith to kind of bow out of participating in religious ceremonies that go against their own faith. And then there were also people of faith that were hoping that this would help business owners of faith, again, to not have to pay for birth control and stuff like that they consider abortive methods or something.
I'm sure
like
this
that,
all went back to everybody's bringing up the cake thing.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with that, but actually the case that's most tied to this is the Hobby Lobby case, since Hobby Lobby won that ruling and everything. But the left, and specifically the LGBT community, has been gearing up to protest the new order out of fear that it would actually elevate discrimination within their communities. Unfortunately for them and their argument, the first draft of said order was actually denied by Trump earlier this year for a couple reasons. Number one, it would have classified particular religious beliefs that marriage is for heterosexual couples. So he turned that down. The other one was that sex is immutable and determined at birth. So he shot that down. That life begins at conception as beliefs protected by government order. That was shot down. And it literally declared particular beliefs that the government would recognize over others and therefore violate the Establishment Clause. So that whole first draft of it was shot down by the Trump administration. This new one that is kind of making the news right now, here's what's in this one. It is a policy of the administration to protect and vigorously promote religious liberty. So that's a very vague topic again, because most people would assume that was what was going on with the first one, right? It calls on the IRS to show maximum discretion in the enforcement of the Johnson Amendment, which limits the power of religious leaders and many charity groups from endorsing political candidates. A lot of people don't really care about that anyway. It also calls for the regulatory relief for businesses and employers who have religious objections to being required to fund birth control for preventative services. And that's it. That's what's in this. Okay? So there are no special protections being extended to those who oppose gay marriage or recognize transgender people. It has nothing to do with that stuff. So the fact that these people would be all upset about it and ready to protest.
These people, given the birth control issue, are the feminist organizations. Historically, they're the ones that are most upset about it.
To be fair, I don't think... Look, feminists are typically the ones pushing this issue, right? But to be fair, I feel like it's pushed by the left all the time anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
so who's the group
that's... The feminists are the catalyst for that conversation.
Sure.
You know?
Okay. Well, who's the group that's providing the most amount of throwback, or is it just the left across the board?
Yeah, it would be the left across the board on this one. Same thing with, I've seen a couple comments and posts lately.
Just something to protest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look at, one thing that you contacted me about when I asked you to come on the show, didn't tell you, was you asked if we were going to be talking about the budget that came out and everything and what was going into that, because there's a lot. Well, when you talk about the budget.
Beyond disappointing. Yes,
and the fact of the matter is there's so much stuff that goes into that. I mean, what do you cover for who cares on what and everything? There's certainly things to talk about in that we'll be kind of dissecting maybe over the next couple of weeks, because more details always come out, and then you're like, crap, what I said may not have been totally correct.
Yeah, well, it's all out there on the Congress.gov site. But regardless, the biggest disappointment in that is what's done is done. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't just, a committee meeting. That was the budget. There's not another opportunity to have that until, I think, next October. So what's done is done. Yeah. There's no going back on it.
Two big things that Trump supporters are furious about or don't even know about, because in a lot of cases, I'm sorry to say, they don't pay attention after the election. No funding for the wall. As a matter of fact, specifically saying you cannot use anything for the wall. So
full funding for Planned Parenthood.
Full funding for Planned Parenthood. Those are the two biggest things. Yep. So a lot of people upset about that, especially after...
Obama could have done that.
Oh, well, this is basically... And you know what it comes back to is the fact that, again, I don't believe that... that there is any backing up for this president, right? I think that Democrats hate him no matter what, even though a lot of his policy thought lines align with theirs. They don't see that. And then on the Republican side, they don't... This goes across the board. It's not just Republicans. It's actually the Republicans and the Democrats. They don't want people that aren't politicians making it into higher powers.
Oh, absolutely not, right.
Because it ruins their map for success as a politician, right? And this is coming from a guy who I don't like Trump. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say that. I don't personally like him, but at the same time, like Mike said last week in the podcast, the more the left gets agitated by him, the more I do like him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when they point out stupid things that shouldn't even be argued against.
I think the average listener to a show like this that is coming on for, say, more political insight into something than they get from news because they don't know who's biased towards what, would be, all right, you have a Republican president, you have, with the House, we have, we have all these institutions. Why did it fail? And, do we not have enough Republicans in the Senate? Do we, is that a...
I don't think they wanted it to succeed. I don't think Congress wanted his plan to succeed. Which I find fascinating, because I was just going to say this before.
Congress or Ryan?
Well, Ryan, it's interesting the way
he's not impressing me lately.
No, not at all. And I don't consider him a conservative anymore. When he was running with Romney, I thought he was the conservative end of the ticket that kind of propped Romney's policies up. I'm sorry, I'm not going to trust a Republican from a liberal state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're already watered down in my mind.
I mean, when he was running on the VP ticket, I was thinking, we're in the middle of a recession. Here's the guy whose job was to, was to
budget,
was the congressional budget. And
yeah.
I'm like, well, who better to have in the middle of a recession? But
I shared multiple times his videos where he was doing graphic things with the budget and showing things in these well done, well produced videos, and I don't know what's happened.
I mean, this further cements why I really wanted Cruz, because he's the only person that's still, it seems, fighting for these conservative principles. I mean, Trump fights for them, wants them, and then when there's any kind of pushback, he folds like a paper airplane. So,
well, in his defense, that's the business way of doing things, right? Because if in business, if you're pushing for something and you're getting a lot of pushback, the way to do that as a head of a company would be, okay, let's side table this for now, move on with things that we can effectively change, and come back and revisit this later.
I think the only effective change that was provided in that budget was military spending, which was increased, and even that wasn't the amount he was asking for. Mm-hmm. So the conservative side of things didn't win any one issue at 100% in that entire bill. Mm-hmm. It was less of a compromise and more of a Democrat fold-up.
Well, wasn't it you that sent me the
link to
the link to Ann Coulter?
Yes.
Or tagged me in that?
Yes.
I mean, she basically said, if this is what we get when you have Republicans controlling the House, the Senate, the presidency, then what's the reason to vote Republican anymore?
And the thing is, even if that doesn't hold weight, the statement, I think it's incredibly legitimate because it is how the average Republican is going to think.
Yeah.
Now, I think that things like this continuing to happen, we'll either see Democrat for the next, 100 years, or we're going to, I think it's the best chance of seeing a third party emerge from the conservative side of things.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I believe that's coming.
Yeah. In the beginning, my concern is that there's now going to be a split between one half of of one party, and the Democrats will be united. It's going to be it's not going to really be, numbers will not be in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at with the
although I support it,
what they believe was the repealing of Obamacare. What was it, yesterday? Once they finally had the votes for it, the Democrats all started chanting "Hey, hey, hey, goodbye" and the song and everything.
But they didn't really.
Well, I mean, what they believe.
My disappointment for one, when it comes to Obamacare over just about anything. One thing they could have easily have done, and I'm not speaking to the results of what it was, but the only thing that's actually unconstitutional in the Obamacare, no matter how bad it is, the only thing that's actually right is the requirement, is the requirement to force people to buy it. Mm-hmm. They could have gotten rid of that on day one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the fact that I still paid a fine pisses me off.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're no closer now than we were, I won't lie. I waited until the last minute to file our taxes and hope that fine wouldn't be there. But, I could still consider myself conservative. I'm not impressed with the party with which I am affiliated at the moment at all.
Well, to be fair, I don't think these are the majority. For a long time, the House Freedom Caucus or whatever was standing up against Trump. I don't think that it's necessarily conservatives that are the problem. It's the Republicans. Yeah, which I don't lump myself in with, for obvious reasons. And I just got done saying just a couple days ago, I posted the video of Dave Rubin interviewing Austin Peterson, one of my favorites. I mean, first of all, I have been looking to Dave Rubin for his opinion now for he's great. He went from being a progressive liberal to a classic liberal, which is a little bit more hardcore than it's almost right leaning. It's very interesting when you actually look into it.
Somebody sits on the fence.
Well, yeah, but he has fiscally conservative on things now, and also libertarian on a lot of other things. It's a very interesting stance for especially liberals to take. Now, Austin Peterson obviously lost out to Gary Johnson in the libertarian primaries. But I thought that Austin Peterson should have definitely have been the candidate for the Libertarian Party, because I think he would have ripped everyone apart, and I think he would have gotten a lot of traction. But that being said, every time I watch Austin Peterson's videos and him talking about freedom, which is really a libertarian, the core of libertarianism. His thing he always says is, if it comes down to it, I'm going to support the lesbian couple that's marijuana farming and people walk on and trespass trying to steal their marijuana, that they have AK-47s to defend their crops. Like, that's freedom to him. You know what I mean? And that's, I've caught him a couple times saying, I heard him say it in person at the CPAC convention. But yeah, interestingly enough, the whole thing I was getting to with the supposed repealing of Obamacare is that it's a game. That's what you're really seeing, is that these Democrats believe that now that Obamacare is not in place, when things go to crap, they can pin on the Republicans. I truly believe that they were upset when it wasn't overturned when he first got into office, because Obamacare is crashing. It's burning.
It was designed to.
It is.
It was designed to push all of the healthcare companies
universal
out and go to a single payer system.
Absolutely.
It was never designed to actually sustain.
And the fact that it was getting drawn out while people are paying higher premiums, higher deductibles, and getting crushed by this stuff, the longer that was going to go, the more they were sweating the midterm elections that were going to be coming up. But now they're going to be happy because there isn't a specific failure, situation or end solution basically to this whole problem that they can point to that points back to them. Yeah. Right. So it's a political game, and the Republicans have to be very careful on what they're introducing, which turns out to be another pile of steaming dog crap as far as I'm concerned.
I think that the Republicans are the one playing this game, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think what they're shooting for, if I had to guess, is that they know that if things keep going the way they are now, that there's going to be a record number of third-party votes in the next presidential election in 4 years. All they need to do is get a Republican to run independent, right? Mm-hmm. Project himself as, a middle-of-the-road, leaning left, type person. He'll get elected because everybody's fed up with both parties. And, he'll end up being Republican anyway. I just, as far as the party that he, perpetuates. So, I don't blame that one on the Democrats.
I think you're right, though, and we'll end it with this, but I think you're right that the upcoming powers that be are going to be third party, and it's going to one party,
third party,
one party that's going to one party is going to suffer from it, right? And it's going to be the party that happens to be in power when that sort of thing takes off, and that could go either direction, though. If Trump loses in 2020 and we have more traction for a third party from that election as well, but it just didn't pick up enough. I think we're on the verge as it is, but that one doesn't pick up. 2024, I think it's gonna be the year, and if Trump wins in 2020, it might happen in the next election as opposition to his own party. And that's a big game. That's a big game to play, that to war game out, because is it better to have it happen between a first and second term of a sitting president, or at the end of a second term when there's all new players in the game and it's almost like a fresh slate and you get the third party that way? I almost think that's better because it's not hurting the party in power.
I think it depends on whether the third party candidate really is a third party.
True.
And not a plant.
Yep.
I mean, is Trump really a Republican or a conservative?
Oh, no.
I mean, no, absolutely not. But he ran that ticket because, that's how he wins. You got to watch third parties, too. Just because they claim to be one thing, that doesn't mean they are.
Yep, absolutely. To end that out on the religious order, Ben Shapiro put it best. He said, so religious people get virtually nothing. This is a fig leaf. It does not protect religious businesses across the country, does not build a wall around the First Amendment, and doesn't even win Trump points with the mainstream media. It merely waves at good policy, then caters to Ivanka Trump's feelings about LGBT outreach, who we know is a liberal. Her and her husband are both liberal.
Yeah.
The fact that, I'm happy that Steve Bannon was kicked out of the office or given less responsibilities and everything, because I think he is crazy.
Comey needs to be next.
Yeah. Well, but the fact is that it was kind of a tug of war of guidance for Trump between Bannon and his daughter and son-in-law. Mm-hmm. Well, now the daughter and son-in-law are the advice givers to Trump on policies and stuff, and they're both liberal. Mm-hmm. And I don't think many people really understand what's going on there with that.
Well, the media doesn't report it.
and some Trump supporters are too ignorant to look into the fact, because they think Trump is conservative, or at least on the right of the middle, that his family members must feel the same way, and that's just not the case.
Trump is for himself, and when he puts his mind to something that he truly wants, he usually gets it. That's his history as a businessman. Which was why it was exciting to see him campaigning on conservative principles, because we assumed that's what he wanted. It seems like he's very easily influenced by the people around him, which is why he surrounds himself with family and friends from his past. And you're right, with a liberal giving him the advice now, that may become what he wants. And if he wants it, he's going to get it. And this budget passing could be a big example of that in some part.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, have you heard of Sydney, Ireland? So she's from Manhattan. Sydney, Ireland has been involved with scouting, Boy Scouting, since she was 4 years old, tagging along with her brother to Cub Scout meetings. And since then, she has been an unofficial member of Troop 414 in Manhattan. Now, the reason why Sydney is making the news lately is because she believes that girls should be able to be in Boy Scouts, which is interesting to me because, in terms of equality and everything, I think that they probably should set up some sort of, group for girls to do the same types of things that Boy Scouts do, but that boys wouldn't be allowed to join in, and, call it something like, I'm just pulling from the air here, but like Girl Scouts instead, and, make it exclusive to girls then.
Well, look, just on the heels of the transgender decision in Boy Scouts, there's already Christian conservative alternatives that are seeing record numbers of people joining. The biggest one I think is Trail Life USA.
Okay,
is a Christian-based male, right? And I think the fact that it's now Boy Scouts is historically Christian-based also, but of course, over time, that has started to go by the wayside. This being Christian-based, considered a religious organization, I think they'll be able to protect that under the guise of, religious freedom a little bit more.
Hopefully,
right.
Stands.
But look, there's a couple of things about this. I was in Boy Scouts. We were in Cub Scouts together as kids, but I was in Boy Scouts until I was 17 and joined the Army. One, we have Girl Scouts, which is run by women, attended by women. Why then, if this is really an issue, are they continuing to perpetuate the idea that Girl Scouts is about baking cookies? Why can't it be outdoor and survivalist? I don't think anybody's arguing that shouldn't be the case.
I thought that they did do that kind of stuff.
They really don't.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really a problem within the Girl Scouts.
My whole family, my mom, my aunt.
This is going to be bringing up so many issues with just this news story alone. But go ahead, because we'll talk about
my mom, my aunt. They are all very involved in the Girl Scouting organization, and my mom, my aunt. They're very outdoorsy, right?
Yep.
Which is why they pushed me to be in Boy Scouts, but they don't. They just don't. It's just it's Girl Scouts in general as an organization, not necessarily the girls in it, but is still very stuck in the 50s. You know, they're just not getting out there and doing the same things. But why not? Why couldn't they? And
why isn't Sydney's campaign, instead of trying to get girls to be in Boy Scouts, to change the Girl Scouts organization to do more
because
things
they already have so
with
much
that.
funding and so much structure put up there. But the problem with that is then they can't argue about the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are no men essentially involved in Girl Scouts. It's run by women. It's involved with... So, you know, why... The better question is, why are women perpetuating the idea that other young women can't be as outdoorsy or can't be as... You know, why is that the problem? Why? And so I don't think it's about that at all. I think this is just another thing to protest, like everything else that we're talking about, and it's just the fact that there is an organization, regardless of its content, where women aren't allowed. It's a perpetual no girls allowed sign, you know, like you saw in the old like Charlie Brown cartoons and stuff like that, where the woman was at the bottom all pissed off she can't get up into the treehouse.
Yeah.
That's all this is.
I think it's more than that, and not in a good way. Like, like this is some like, you know, great philosophical argument for them or anything. But I think in the last couple of years, especially with the transgender stuff going, we have seen a push from the left, which is what I always joke around about, for this genderless society. Right? They don't like seeing specific gender type organizations,
right,
unless it's their specific type of gender organization, right? But they don't want to have a club where they're not allowed in, or people in their belief system are allowed in. It's not that I think that they are looking for something to complain about that may have led to this type of thing, but you know, it's kind of like I don't know how many times I've said this before, but if we live in a genderless society, what use is feminism anymore? You know, what are you trying to argue anymore? You know, those are two very conflicting things, because if feminism is a push for equality of women, or even more so sometimes, because men are scumbags, according to the new feminist movement, then how do you also applaud a genderless society where you're not supposed to recognize those things? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
I forget how Milo put it in that debate I was just watching, and I don't agree with 90% of what he says, but when he makes a good point, it typically is a very good point, right? And he said the modern day feminism movement, as you know, is no longer. I think it's important to specify that, you know, when he says, you know, the amount of people that identify as feminists have gone down substantially, that doesn't imply that the number of women who believe in equality has gone down. Right. That those two things just don't mean the same thing anymore.
Yep.
So that women are equally or more fighting for equal rights, but they don't want to, you know, identify themselves as feminists because they've recognized that feminism isn't even about just hating men anymore. You know, feminism just sends out the women hate everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a terrible message steeped in hate.
I mean, the feminist movement is so specific on what you have to be a modern feminist that at the Women's March, they weren't allowing Trump supporters that wanted women equality.
Right.
You know, I mean,
and they don't want to bring up, you know, the travesties of what's going on in the Middle East and women either. It's more of a contest to see who can be the most extreme.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what it's just become. It almost doesn't even have a purpose. It's really just like a you know, like a bet on who could one up the next on being the most extreme.
Extremely offended. Yeah.
Right.
So over the years, Sydney's activities with the troop have included camping trips, hiking, archery, ice climbing, and yes, knot tying. As a city kid, she has learned to cherish a connection to the outdoors, and she credits the Boy Scouts for helping to foster it. She is not able to officially earn merit badges and advance in rank along with the boys around her because she is a girl. Gasp.
Well, the Boy Scouts, in its institution, right, in its inception, rather, was designed to help boys become good men. Okay?
Okay.
Now, inherently...
I agree with you.
Well, but that was, you know... Now, inherently, that results in very conservative principles. It just is. It's a faith-based organization. It's based in conservative principles. Now... This gets to me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it. First of all, bravo to her for you know, saying that, for learning those things.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely think that that's not a bad thing at all. But that goes back to my previous argument with why isn't she able to learn those in a female organization?
That's the problem. That's the root problem.
I just don't see the problem there.
Yeah. So according to national policy, the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts only enroll boys, including transgender boys, as of earlier this year, which creates a loophole.
Transgender could be a girl pretending to be a boy or a boy pretending to be a girl. So
yes,
by that logic, they're already
transgender boys, which
not transgender girls.
No.
Okay, so they're not letting girls in. So if you're a boy, you dress like a girl, you can still be a Boy Scout.
No. A transgender boy would be a girl that identifies as a boy.
Okay, so they're already letting women in, which is why
Well, right. So we have two avenues for Sydney here to do something, right? She can either go to the Girl Scouts and have them change the policy,
or just change transgender,
or she could just be a boy.
Well, look, over the last 50, 60 years, being that Boy Scouts was designed to help boys become good men, but that has evolved. Mm-hmm. That has evolved little by little, to reflect society as things became, I would imagine probably in its inception, they taught boys that women belonged at home. I'd be willing to bet that's probably true if you look it up.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
They certainly don't teach that now.
No.
On the contrary,
Mm-hmm.
So if the Boy Scouts has evolved with the times, right, to reflect how they're going to teach boys to become men, but appropriate men in today's society, why hasn't the Girl Scout organization evolved at all?
Yeah,
they're selling the same boxes of cookies and perpetuating the same message they have since the organization was created. It hasn't changed at all. Why?
Yeah, don't know. For the last few years, Sydney has been asking the Boy Scouts of America to let girls officially join through letters to national leadership, public op-eds, and a change.org petition. Which is, if you look into change.org, you know where it comes from. She said, I just want to see a change. Right now, they're discriminating against girls. That's because it's called the Boy Scouts. And I'm just calling it as I see it. Yeah, I am too. You're a girl. I mean, what else is there to say? So as I was joking around before about why doesn't she just join an organization like this and it would be called the Girl Scouts. Well, she has gotten that criticism before, and she said in response to that, I know that almost everything that the Boy Scouts do, I want to do. And if they're identical programs, then why are they separate? Which
again
goes right to what I'm saying about genderless stuff.
Look, I think as a child, and she is a child. I don't know. Do we know how old she is? I would guess not even a teenager
16.
Yet.
I think she's 16.
I saw a picture. I don't think she's quite that old. I would say probably close. Let's say 12 or 13. It looked like.
Okay.
Just guessing off looks. But I think she's getting caught up in something she doesn't fully understand. And I think that the way that she...
Where would that push come from then?
Yeah, right. But I think the way she's feeling is okay.
Yes.
I don't think she's desiring necessarily to be a member of the Boy Scouts of America organization. What she wants is to be able to go out and learn archery, and how to pitch a tent, earn badges, play with frogs, whatever it is. She wants to do boy stuff, and bravo to her, because that is absolutely okay. And I think that as far as she's concerned, because this is the only outlet she's been given to do that stuff, right? That's just her feelings, right? And then I think her parents or whomever are perpetuating this push, right, that she doesn't really care about. She just wants to go out and do what boys do.
Yeah.
And good for her. She's probably very good at it, right? And so, it's like I said, what'll end up happening, and you're starting to see it now, is the Boy Scouts of America as an institution will become, I won't say obsolete.
The Scouts. It's going to be called the Scouts for everyone.
Well, right, but right now it is the largest organization of its kind. Mm-hmm. I think that will change.
Absolutely.
These organizations like Trail Life USA, and even former Scouts. I've seen former Scouts that are military now forming organizations, kind of like your what do they call it? I used to go back after scouting, and we would do more extreme things. Hiking up in the Wyoming, up in the White Mountains, right? For men that were former Scouts, but
men leadership type stuff,
right? But you could take some of the older Scouts with you, And I forget what they called it, but I think you're going to start seeing more of these organizations, taking its place. And I think what you'll have, instead of one large, giant organization, you'll have these fractured organizations that are doing what Boy Scouts are supposed to be doing, and Boy Scouts will become the middle,
Yeah.
It'll fizzle out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree. So I had one topic in between here. I thought I organized this a little bit better. We're going to go back to the Apple and Elon Musk stuff.
For the record, I think that somebody needs to ask the Girl Scouts Association for a quote regarding that subject.
They did. They did. Yeah, I did not throw that in here because they basically said that they support people going after organizations that best fit what their lifestyle, basically.
Oh, so I can join the Girl Scouts.
Exactly. yeah, exactly.
And earn merit badges.
Yeah. Well, I guess apparently a participation badge for this girl, Sydney, isn't enough. We have participation trophies. Why not a participation badge, right? We can freely give that to her and sew it onto her jacket or something.
They even have that in the military.
Now, something else to be fair on Sydney's case here is that she joined, which she's in Manhattan, right? And I could be completely ignorant on this, and maybe there's Manhattans somewhere else too or anything, but I'm guessing they mean New York, right?
Sure. Yeah.
She joined a Canadian Boy Scouts that does allow her to be in it, and so she's a Canadian Scout that she actually goes up there to Ontario for this stuff. I don't know how much I don't. When we were in Cub Scouts, it was like every Wednesday night or something like that.
It's kind of like an outpost camp, probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
Kind of like when we have summer camps in the Boy Scouts. And I think that, again, from a child's perspective or someone her age, she probably goes up there, loves what she's doing, comes back here, wants an outlet for it.
Yeah.
And rather than her parents... Look, I'd be willing to bet I could go on Google right now, and there's female organizations that teach this stuff.
Absolutely.
I guarantee it.
There's something for everyone.
So the parents could be giving her this outlet where she could be with her peers. I'd be willing to bet there's organizations like this. Actually, I guarantee there's organizations like this that aren't gender specific, where you do the exact same thing.
So it's agenda driven then.
It's absolutely gender driven. That's the only thing that's...
And what's my motto? The truth is more important than agenda?
Yeah.
So let's keep on a similar type line here. A Canadian writer wants her very masculine son to be a proud princess. So she's forcing him into ballet. So Canadian columnist and proud feminist Leah McLaren, speaking of her 3-year-old son, she said, "The other day I was sitting in a park." Now I want to throw up a little warning here because this is a very traumatic experience. So I want you guys to be aware in case you have children around. She said, "The other day I was sitting in a park with James, 3, who's 3 years old, when I picked a dandelion and handed it to him as a present." This is where it gets pretty intense. She said, "No way, Mommy," pushing away my gift. "Flowers are pretty and I'm a boy." And I thought, that's it. I'm signing him up for ballet. So, she said, you might think this is no big deal, that my son is just behaving naturally, but I'm automatically wary of notions of biological determinism. When he hands me back a flower because pretty things are for girls, I think, what's next? Kindness, decency, dancing? So she said, as much as I dislike the idea of anything being categorized as inherently feminine or masculine, it's hard to explain post-structuralist gender theory to a 3-year-old. Yeah, because you shouldn't be. So she said, if I want my son to love and respect women, I'm going to have to teach him to embrace and ideally appreciate girlish things. That's why I'm weaving him a dandelion crown and signing him up for ballet. I'm going to turn the little alphabet belcher into a proud princess, whether he likes it or not. So that's where we can start dissecting things, because here we are. We just got done last week ripping into Bill Nye for his absolutely ridiculous ice cream cartoon ripping apart Christians for conversion therapy, right? And here she is. I'm going to turn him into a proud princess, whether he likes it or not. Yeah. So this is forcing a child to do things that he doesn't want to do, which I would directly compare with conversion therapy, which I'm not for, and I explained that in the last podcast. When the participant is unwilling, those types of things aren't going to work. And as a matter of fact, we'll get to that later. But go ahead.
What I think opened the door for this, and just open the door for this is right away when we start, allowing ourselves to believe that a child who's 3 years old, is already self-identifying as its opposite gender, right? Mm-hmm. Whether or not that's the case, look, I don't know genetics beyond what the original Bill Nye the Science Guy said. So that's
well, yeah. Which one do you want to listen to, Bill Nye the Science Guy, or Bill Nye Saves the World? Because those are two different theories.
Correct. The original, that really is about the extent of my knowledge of genetics. So what happens after puberty and things like that, I don't know. But a 3-year-old, they're being molded. And the idea that we've accepted as a society anyway, this idea that, a 3-year-old can identify as a woman, opened the door, for this kind of thing. And I think... Can
I disagree before you finish that thought?
Sure.
Because the transgender topic is a minefield. I personally know that. That being said, I do believe that there's a difference between a child naturally, without any outside influence, believing that they are something else, right? As opposed to, in this case, a mother saying, okay, this kid is saying that he's showing very masculine signs. I'm going to force him into ballet to feminize him.
I don't disagree. But I do believe that at that age, at 3, they are entirely a product of their environment. Now, it could be that little 3-year-old boy raised by a single mom and, learns more feminine things because that's the environment he's in. Fine. She says that she wants him to respect women and appreciate feminine things. I don't even have a problem with that.
I mean, why is he not appreciating it already?
Right. Right. He's not getting that already. But, when we were in school, right, it wasn't cool to color with the pink crayon.
Yeah.
Right? Did that screw us up and cause us to not appreciate our wives or treat women like garbage? No. It's just them figuring out what it means to be a young man or a boy.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with her teaching him, that it's okay to like the pink crayon,
Yeah.
But what she's going to end up doing is traumatizing this child.
Yes, absolutely.
The further you get away from schooling, the easier it is to forget, how ridiculous things are.
Yeah. And I think as adults now, our generation is the first generation to become adults and not realize how much of an influence social media has on bullying and stuff like that. I think that's a minefield that we have to navigate as adults that we can't see.
Well, if she continues to perpetuate this, say, into middle school, where he's not allowed to play manly sports and he's only allowed to play ballet, and let's say that much time goes by and he continues to not want to do these things, A, he's going to become depressed. B, yes, he's going to be bullied and picked on. C, yep. She said she wanted him to become this proud. He's not. He's going to go completely introvert.
He's going to go dark.
He's going to go absolutely introvert and silent. Yep. He's going to lose his voice, whatever that voice was going to be, because she's trying to force her voice on him.
And there's going to be a despisal for his mother.
Oh, absolutely.
There's going to be mommy issues. There's already going to be mommy issues with this one. Let's see here. She said... Okay, so basically, that's where my bullet points end on what was in this article. But like I said, he's going to rebel against mommy dearest. That's what's going to come down the pipeline with this one. I said, when did we go from equality to feminine dominance? That's really what this is also pointing to as well, is the fact that, it's...
Being manly takes a back seat to being feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back to no father was mentioned in this case, right? Which is where I was going to with what I said in as a comment to what you said, which is why isn't he? This is what she said specifically here.
Would it surprise you to find out that she married a jerk that treated women like garbage, and she's determined to make sure her son doesn't turn out the same way, but doing it all wrong?
Exactly. So what she said here is, if I want my son to love and respect women, I'm going to have to teach him to embrace. Right there is where we can end. If I want him to do these things, I have to teach him. Well, where's the father? And why? And if he is there, why is he not an example on what to do?
Or being involved.
Yeah, absolutely. My job as a father, and your job as a father, is if you have sons, you teach them how to respect women and how to properly take care of them and everything. If you're the father of a daughter and you have 3 daughters,
you teach them not to allow themselves,
and you somehow still have hair. It comes down to, this is what you look for in a guy. This is how a guy should treat you. And by the way, when he comes over, I'm cleaning my guns. Brant's going to bring over and sit down with me, and we're going to clean off grenades, even though we don't have to. So, These are certainly things that that someone should be teaching them. There's a lot of angles to these two stories that we just talked about in regards to gender influence, cultural influence, parental influence, and agendas being driven into these types of things, right? The agenda with the Girl Scout thing is clearly something higher than what's being told through all these articles. It's that the agenda there, I'm just going to throw it out there, they're trying to take down the Boy Scouts organization.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is,
yeah.
Okay? It's not to change what the Girl Scouts are doing to reflect more survival techniques and stuff like the Boy Scouts, or find other organizations locally that she can join, or even if she wanted the option to be a boy, to go that route. And in this case, the agenda here is she doesn't like the basic American symbolic male masculine figure. She wants a more feminine. It's the feminizing of men, which is what Rush Limbaugh refers to all the time. A male that does male things, that doesn't like feminine things, and is a bulky guy, doesn't wear skinny jeans and real skinny, and isn't a feminine character, is one of the most hated types of genders that there is.
Look, when I try to dissect the feminist movement to find some sort of commonality, what I find is I can't find a foundation. They don't want the women behaving like women.
Yeah.
As much as that means, I shouldn't say behaving like women. They don't want the women behaving feminine, right? Stereotypically women. At the same time, they want the men to be more feminine, but they're demonizing femininity in women, and they're demonizing the masculinity in men. Which is it?
Yeah.
Do you want people to be more feminine? Well, no, obviously not. You're trying to get your women to be more masculine. Do you want your men to be more feminine? They're
confused themselves.
Yeah, there's no solid foundation. They demonize both femininity and masculinity. What's left?
Yeah. Because they're trying to go genderless. They just want this, don't worry about what
thousands
the parts
of years
are.
of evolution. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like they're succeeding in areas.
But that's going to, I'm sorry, testosterone is still a thing.
Yeah.
It's not going away.
What's going to come down to is this is a big pendulum.
These boys that are, they're going to become men. It's, well, okay, fine. But eventually,
I think, what I think is going to happen? I hope I'm wrong, just because of the outcome itself. But I see this upcoming generation having high suicide rates in the coming decades. Mm-hmm. I think our suicide rates are already up there, but I think that one of the biggest things that anyone, no matter what color you are, what gender you are, your sexuality, or anything else, once you get out of college or enter the real world in any type of capacity, it hits you like a brick in the face. And those that are completely unprepared because they've been fed fairy tale unicorn frappuccinos, you know what I mean, are the worst to get hit because it's going to hit them the hardest.
Speaking of kind of that and combining with their talk about parties, the other day, that is one political party that never seems to emerge that I'm most surprised about on the left, which is a person, a group of people, that have very liberal social views, but very conservative economic views. Because in my mind, you have all these college kids, right? And stereotypically, they are going to be very liberal. Life hasn't happened to them yet, and I don't really even fault them for that.
And they're fed this stuff by...
Right. So socially, I don't think they would change too much until they start making money and realize they don't want to give it all away, and they have to support themselves or a family. I would imagine, what is stopping these people from... they have to understand money a little, right? If they're making it, right? There are successful liberal people.
Yeah.
Financially,
absolutely.
Probably as much as conservative. Look at all your teachers. So they have to have an understanding of economics, at least as it applies to them. Mm-hmm. So where is this party of economically educated people with liberal social views? I don't see it. Yeah. Why? That has always surprised me. I just thought
that's a lot of education issues.
But again, whether their education on economics is completely wrong, once you have entered the actual workforce and you are supporting yourself financially, it kind of comes, right?
Yeah, naturally.
I mean, I know more. I've been taking an economics class, since college, but I know more now than I knew then.
Yes,
and I will know more in 10 years than I do now.
Yes.
So just by nature of being in the workforce, having to pay rent or pay a mortgage and property taxes and support a family and budget so that you have money for food and things like that, you would assume not necessarily that their social views would change, but that their economic views would change.
Yeah, I would call it like compounding life decisions.
Right. So where are your
shape your future.
So where are your capitalism supporting liberal thinking socialist party? Where is that? It doesn't exist, and I'm just really curious as to why.
I think a lot of people that start to go that direction realize that they're libertarian.
Fair enough.
Because look at social issues. The libertarians don't care about social issues. They typically, not all, typically are atheists that don't care about marriage being defined by the Bible or anything like that. And so the very freedom, bent of the party is, I don't care what you do with your social life or anything like that, but here's where we need to focus on. I really do think that's where we're going with that. Is that
so maybe that's your third party?
Yeah. Well, I hope it is.
A combination of scorned Republicans and economically educated liberals would make for a good, large libertarian party. That would be nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some technology and markets. Tim Cook of Apple is saying that they are going to invest $1 billion in U.S. manufacturing. So Apple CEO Tim Cook announced that the iPhone maker would be putting $1 billion of its roughly $256 billion. I'm sorry, did I say million or billion before? Billion, okay. $256 billion cash hoard into a U.S. advanced manufacturing fund. Cook said, we're really proud to do it. And by doing that, we can be the ripple in the pond. Because if we can create many manufacturing jobs around, those manufacturing jobs create more jobs around them because you have a service industry that builds up around them. It was a little...
Now they said
jobs create jobs is
right.
Basically what he's trying to say.
It sounded like they didn't directly commit to creating a manufacturing plant and getting jobs. They said they're putting it into a fund.
Very vague. Yeah.
I mean, that just leaves it open to they could just put it into a fund and leave it there till the end of time.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
When asked about tax reform, Cook launched into an attack on the current tax code, one he's repeated in one way or another many times over the last few years, which I find interesting, coming from a liberal person.
I probably agree with.
Yep, here's what he said. He said, I actually think comprehensive tax reform is so important to this economy. If you think about it, what many, many companies now sell globally, if you sell globally, you earn money globally. If you earn money globally, you can't bring it back into the United States unless you pay 35% plus your state tax. And you look at this and you go, this is kind of bizarre. You want people to use this money in the United States to invest more. We are in a good position, but an unusual one. Our good position is we can borrow, and so to invest in the United States, we have to borrow. This doesn't make sense on a broad basis. And so I think the administration you saw that they're really getting this and want to bring this back. I hope that comes to pass. So he's pushing for a tax reform.
Well, right, and absolutely he's right. Our tax system is ridiculous on so many levels. But he's right. I mean, basically they're creating an incentive to keep that wealth and money in other countries. Mm-hmm. I mean, in what way does that serve us at all?
Tax havens and stuff like that. Yeah.
Are they just banking on the fact that they absolutely won't do that, so they're gonna be able to take money in on taxes, or I don't know.
Elon Musk. So here's an interesting conversation I want to have. Okay, actually deals with your type of business too that you're involved with. Okay. So Elon Musk is saying that robot software will make Tesla worth as much as Apple. Do you follow Elon Musk and Tesla and all?
He's Tesla. Well, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I love walking into the dealership down at the King of Prussia.
Oh, okay. I haven't been to one.
Oh, they have like 3 Teslas sitting in there.
Yeah. Musk is referencing the advanced machines that will produce a Tesla Model 3 and the batteries for it, an audacious attempt at becoming a major American manufacturer in a short time. Along with solar panel manufacturing adopted in the Solar City merger, Tesla is rolling out 3 new production lines in the coming months planned for peak performance. He said, if we're able to maintain a 50% growth rate for 10 years and achieve 10% profitability number and have a 20 PE, our market cap would be basically the same as Apple's is today. Now that's going to require a bit on the order of $700 billion, obviously. Getting there will require some significant caps. Or capex. Yeah, that's it. Tesla shares are up 46% in 2017. So there's a lot of things that go into this, and I know on the surface it doesn't look like it, but number one, Elon Musk is known for two big things right now: the Tesla cars, right, and SpaceX, which is the privatization of space travel.
Right, Virgin was trying to do it too. They were the two competing.
Yep. Yeah, Brosnan, I think his name is Bronson.
Richard Branson.
Okay. Yeah. Which you don't hear much from him anymore.
I follow him.
Oh, you do?
When it comes to business, the things he has to say are brilliant. When it comes to politics, not so much. But no, I do follow him because he's one of my business
go-tos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But one of the things that Tesla's been working on, which is really interesting, is solar-powered shingles. Or I'm sorry, solar collecting shingles.
I've seen it. There's a couple of different styles.
Yeah.
There's one that mimics the look of regular shingles.
Yes.
There's one that I think mimics the look of slate. And there was a couple of really good ones. And
it's neat.
Absolutely. And actually, people's biggest concerns would be, glass or that type of glass being breakable. But honestly, you see how many roofs I replace. The single thing that almost never needs to be replaced are the solar panels.
Okay. I haven't come across one with you that was solar panel.
A lot of them in New Jersey where a whole half of the house is covered in solar panels. It actually, in the case of, say, like hail, it takes something larger than the size of a baseball to damage those. I mean, they are incredibly resilient. Now, they don't function as a roof because there's space about this much underneath each one.
Right, yep.
But create a roof out of that does that job. They're incredibly resilient, and they actually would negate the need to ever replace it. They really last forever.
Yeah,
they don't wear out.
We have yet to see that because solar panels, by and large, even though they've been around,
but I've been following that specific.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing, more because I don't think not only are they turning that technology into something like shingles, right, or slate or whatever. It's the fact that if they're doing that, they're also probably upping the quality to something maybe even a little bit more flexible and more impact resistant. So even the solar panels that you come across on roofs, I'm willing to bet that these new ones are probably going to take a lot more beating than those.
The biggest problem...
I mean, you can only advance in technology.
Yeah, look, there's only so many things that are going to destroy a roof. You have hailstorms, you have wind. That's really it. Now, wind, that's going to have everything to do with the way they're adhered.
Yep.
You can't put a nail through glass.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But as far as, even if they only made it as resilient as regular solar panels, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's stronger than anything, on the market today, save maybe steel, But, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And then the other part to this story is
I'm sure the electric companies are going to try to put the kibosh on that because...
no. And here's the thing. The interesting thing I've been finding is that you can look into it, and it's if you have the money to invest in the first place, which is the problem with all this renewable energy, is that there's a cost involved to get going. Once you get going, there's a savings that comes naturally with that. But when I've looked into it, if you're feeding back into the power grid at all, whether it's through solar or wind turbines or anything,
they actually
pay you. Yeah.
But the thing of it is, I would say better than 90% of people with solar panels don't own those solar panels. They're leasing them. They're renting them every
month. Is great too, though.
That's the only way I could see this working with the roof. But then you're leasing your roof, so what happens if you don't pay?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, what I think needs to happen is I think that there needs to be a program in place where you get the solar panels for free. Okay, I know I sound like a liberal there.
The solar panels, or you're talking about the shingles?
Whatever the case is.
Okay, all right. Whatever Elon Musk is coming up with.
Yeah, exactly. You get it for free, and then the profitability that comes off of that by feeding back into the grid is directly paid to them. You know what I mean?
Yes, but then the argument you're going to run into are, well, I use so much less electricity than this person, and that person only has to pay, 5 cents a month because he's using up all the electricity his shingles create. Meanwhile, I'm creating X amount. You're going to have. Well, I just see that argument being put in place.
Yeah, it's a starting point, though. I think. But here's the other.
They were talking about putting that same technology into roads.
Yeah, absolutely. They are starting to already.
Where you can actually change the lights and lines underneath. You can heat them up to melt the snow.
That's pretty cool.
Where was I? Where I actually saw it in person. They put a section probably as long. Well, maybe like this long. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't slick.
That's the problem I see with it.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't slick. And they could change the patterns underneath. They could heat it up. There was no need for
patterns, as in line patterns.
The line patterns,
like you could go from double yellow to half
dotted
yellow
line
to dotted
to this road's closed to all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
that's crazy.
And the cost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
the longer you wait, the more the cost is going to be if you haven't decided to implement it. So
yeah. So the biggest problem that you're going to run into with this, though, is that they're really talking about. You commented on this?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. The biggest problem that they're going to have is with Elon Musk is he's talking about automated technology to basically replace human labor and getting up to speed and getting.
Well, somebody's going to have to put them up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You have those jobs, and I understand that. And there's, we just watched a really great movie the other week, Hidden Figures. Mm-hmm. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
So it's about these 3 black women back when NASA was trying to get into orbit.
I want to, though.
Great movie.
Is it?
And one of the women in that...
It's on Vudu now.
Yeah. One of the great things about that is that the one woman... her department was the computer department. Mm-hmm. Now, computers were people. They were computing information, right? Mm-hmm. And then they took in this IBM machine that took up a whole room. I mean, that's what the computers were like back then and everything. Mm-hmm. But in this case, so what she had to do was she went and learned how to take care of the IBM machine and set it up and get it running, keep it running and everything. Then she taught all of the other women in her department how to do that as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what ended up happening is they were advanced enough and everything to take care of and maintain these machines. So that's what our society is going to go towards. The more technology becomes a part of what we're doing.
What I hear you saying is that eventually, roofing is going to become... But here's the thing.
We're completely off different topics here. I'm talking about his companies that he wants to implement this technology.
Take away jobs.
Would be his Tesla. It's all the manufacturing of the solar panels.
But my point is with the shingle. I mean, we're headed that direction anyway. 20 years ago, the best you could get was a 20-year 3-tab shingle. That was 20 years, then 25, 30. Mm-hmm. We're up to 50 now. For composition shingles, we're headed that way anyway.
Yeah.
They're getting thicker, they're getting better. So if we jump ahead a few and end up with solar powered, that benefit everybody. Somebody's gonna have to install them. Not that many people are gonna lose jobs, and it's perfectly fine. I think it's a good thing, but more than a bad.
Okay.
I'd buy them.
Oh, the solar shingles? Yeah, I think it's. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait until.
It wouldn't be an eyesore. It looks nice.
Yes, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? I mean,
I've seen them, and they really do look very nice.
Have you seen them installed?
No, not installed.
Oh, okay.
There was just the different samples they put out. I think it was in a Tesla website.
Oh, okay.
Where you can see the different examples.
Yeah.
And they may be prototype. This is what they might look like. I don't know, but they look nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you look at houses, especially around this area. I mean, we're out in the country here, and you see houses that have an acre taken up of these big panels, tilted up, and some are motorized to go with the sun, with the direction that it's coming from and everything. And it's just it's an eyesore. Takes up a lot of property space that you could be using for other things.
Yeah. Well, the other thing nobody talks about with that kind of product is there's additional things that it's not just you have new warranties now. It's not just the life. What happens if something electronically stops working?
Yeah. Or causes a fire.
Or causes I suppose it's electronic. Yeah. So, there's a lot more involved.
And of course, I was going to go into another subject area within this, but I think the core of what they're working on is their Tesla battery, right? Which is not for the cars. That's a whole other thing too. I mean, it's based off of, I think, that technology, but it's a battery that goes in your home and hangs on your wall and becomes your power source. So whether it's solar panels or anything, it feeds into that, and that's where it stores it.
I think that's available already.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
To install in your
There's a
garage,
couple different sizes, but that's what stores your energy, and it's not some massive eyesore. It hangs on the wall like smaller than a cabinet. Yeah, it's amazing.
Look, Tesla has really, as far as anybody else, has perfected electric cars. You know, the only reason it's not taking off is because we have gas stations without these pumps.
Yes,
that's the bottom line.
And time to recharge.
True.
Even the fast charge that's available over on Tillman over there. No, it doesn't. The fast charge can take up to a half hour. But what are you going to do in that half hour? So that's why they do it around shops, so you can go around. Well, if you're traveling, that's really inconvenient. Like, you really have to plan your eating and everything else to go along with that.
I think the ability to be a hybrid is important.
Yes.
And I
don't think those are, though. Teslas aren't, though.
I don't think so either. But I think if Tesla did come out with something, and maybe not gas, just something immediate.
Yeah.
I think 9 times out of 10, most people aren't going to need to use it and probably won't anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It probably would need to be gas because gas stations being, where they are. Or it could be diesel or, whatever else, propane, whatever else is available. But I think if they made that available just as a fail-safe, had a little holder for a propane tank that fits in the trunk and... Okay, no, that's not a good idea. But you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Then I think that at that point that companies like this... And look, their biggest hurdle has always been that they have to navigate around our dealership laws, in this country because they're direct-to-consumer. That's always been their hurdle. And I think that's going to continue to be their biggest hurdle more than any of these things.
Well, I think one of the things that they should be working on right now...
collect from dealerships.
I don't know what the company was that did this, but they turned windows into solar collection devices, like basically panels that you could see through windows, right? So what I see Tesla doing is eventually turning their huge sunroofs into just another solar panel that collects while you're driving and everything too. Now that's not going to sustain you to keep going, but at least it will slow down the discharge of the electricity and help in the recharging process as well. Technology I could go off all day on. I mean, I love it. I love the future of things.
I still don't understand why we haven't gone forward with the hydrogen-powered vehicles. The military has Humvees that are running on it now. They run on water. There's only like 3 of them. But yeah.
Were you in one?
No. I saw one.
Yeah.
But there's no difference in how they look. Nothing.
Yeah.
They just run on water.
How do they sound?
Normal, I guess.
It sounds like
It didn't sound like a
combustion.
Yeah, it engine. Sounded combustion. I don't know, but from what I understand, there's just there's the regular alternator, and there's another giant alternator under there that basically breaks down the water into hydrogen oxygen as you use it, and then they just show you that there's just water dripping out the tailpipe. Basically, it's not actually a tailpipe, but that's where it is, and it's just the byproduct is water.
Yeah.
The problem with hydrogen, as efficient as it was storing it.
Yes.
But if you can break it down as you're using it, there is no storage, and where's the downside?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
I always expected that to be... Because they have running models now.
Yeah.
It exists.
Well, look, the discussion in this always comes down to...
Well, companies not allowing it.
No, it's not so much that, and you would. That's always not to be.
No, that's just
to you. It's not to be disrespectful, but the fact is, it's not affordable. This technology isn't affordable. Of course, I would love to see cars and everything that don't use gas. But think about how many people are driving around vehicles that are older than 10 years old or 20 years old.
Even the gas one still uses gas.
Propane one. But what I'm saying is, how many people drive around old cars because they can't afford anything else? And when they do buy another car, it's another used car or something.
Time for another cash for clunkers.
Well, and that was a big cluster, you know what? Yeah. But it's just, it's ridiculous because I think a lot of people would love, look, no thanks. I would love to be off the grid. You know what I mean?
That isn't possible anymore.
It isn't. It's not possible. What I'm saying though
they
is
make laws against collecting rainwater. I mean,
I know, it's ridiculous. But if I could have a place that was on wind and solar power, and the only thing I needed to pay for was internet service, you know, that's what I would want to do. Get rid of property taxes, own the property.
Yeah, it'd be great.
So,
except nobody owns property in this country anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
What are those deeds called? I mean, they haven't like existed since like the 1800s, but there are some people in the country through family that's legit own their property.
Yeah.
But there's a name for that kind of a deed, and basically, good luck. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, but I think there are some states that don't have property taxes either. So,
but they could.
They could, yes. So I don't know if they
through vote they could make you pay property taxes, and then by proxy take away your property. There are some properties that inherently cannot be taken away. Yeah. And I read an article.
It's too bad we can't travel back in time and give a few $100 for the Louisiana Purchase.
There you're right.
Okay, so let's see. Where are we going? All right, here we go. You ready?
When you are.
We're talking about last week we were ripping into Bill Nye. This week we're ripping into Stephen Colbert. Okay. So our main topic today is the Late Show's host, Stephen Colbert, and diving into his supposed jokes about President Trump and his lack of moral compass. Lack of Stephen's moral compass, as far as I'm concerned. So on Monday's show, Colbert made several jokes about the president after Trump made comments regarding the fake media in his interview with CBS's John Dickerson and calling his show Deface the Nation. So let's take a quick look at that video and talk about it afterwards.
Walking out in the middle of a sentence wasn't even the president's biggest insult to John Dickerson.
And I think actually I've been very consistent. You know, it's very funny when the fake media goes out, you know, which we call the mainstream media, which sometimes I must say is you. But when the
you
fake
mean me personally, or
your show? I love your show. I call it Deface the Nation.
Really? Donald Trump, John Dickerson is a fair-minded journalist and one of the most competent people who will ever walk into your office, and you treat him like that? Now, John Dickerson has way too much dignity to trade insults with the President of the United States to his face. But I, sir, am no John Dickerson. Okay? All right? Let me introduce you to something we call the Tiffany way. When you insult one member of the CBS family, you insult us all. Bazinga. All right? Here we go. All right?
Get the gloves off.
Mr. Trump, your presidency, I love your presidency. I call it disgrace the nation. You're not the POTUS. You're the bloatus. You're the glutton with the button. You're a regular Gorge Washington. You're the presidents, but you're turning into a real pricktator. Sir, you attract more skinheads than free Rogaine. You have more people marching against you than cancer. You talk like a sign language gorilla who got hit in the head. In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster. Your presidential library is going to be a kid's menu in a couple of Jugs magazine. The only thing smaller than your hands is your tax returns. And you can take that any way you want.
Okay, so Colbert sparked an uproar on Monday night with his private part holster joke, which many people branded homophobic and offensive. On the right. Okay, that's what people on the right were saying.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, irony.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, first of all, here's where I'm going to side with Colbert. The only place I'm going to side with Colbert on this whole monologue that he did. I don't think that was a homophobic comment. Nope. I don't think he meant it to be homophobic. Nope. But it's also, like you said, it's how ironic is it that it's always the people on the right that are complaining that they're being branded homophobic over stupid comments and being read into with their comments and everything, but then you're going to turn around and do it to him on the left and everything. But here's the thing. Was Trump's comment that bad, which was, I call it deface the nation. I mean, he is his brand of humor, I think, and it's not even. First of all, it's not funny. It was a stupid comment, and not stupid in that like he shouldn't have made it. It's just that like that's his. He's not very good with that.
You can't say something like that and not expect a result.
Yeah,
and not expect a response. Look, you know, consider yourself libertarian, things like that, constitutionalist, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so, we have the right to sit here and say, what we think, and, Rush Limbaugh can say what he thinks, and, meanwhile, the other side, no matter how off the rockers they are, believe that should be shut down, and we're saying no, free speech, right? So, well, look, we know he's a liberal program, we know he's a liberal guy, Is it a little classless, to sit there after the election and sit there and just bash your own president? Yeah, you're causing this country to become the laughingstock of the world because everybody else is looking at us and just seeing absolute division and nonsense. Should he have been allowed to say it? Absolutely.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
Colbert.
Okay, I was talking about Trump.
Oh, Trump.
And what he was saying about in that interview.
I think...
Here's what I said.
I think he should be held to a higher standard. I think in an interview... Look, was it that inappropriate? No. Was it presidential?
No.
No. Not at all. That's why I'm not totally faulting... Look, I hate everything that Colbert said. I find it... Let's use the word deplorable.
Yeah.
Right? But, look, it wasn't... It was a response to something that the president has engaged, the general public with, with Twitter and social media, the idea of, I guess, what is presidential and what is not, that classness is not there. It's just not how he approaches things, right? And yeah, I mean, look, the response I think was going to happen, and I think if you're going to... Was it that big of a deal? No. Was it a very incendiary comment? Especially right to the guy's face on a live interview? Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Well, here's what I said. I said I would compare this to ridiculous type of things that came out of Biden's mouth.
Yeah.
He just says stupid things. Yep. And you got to take it at face value for who it is and where, or what it is and who it's coming from, But here's the thing. My problems with this whole situation involving Trump, Dickerson, and Colbert has nothing to do with what Trump said to Dickerson in that interview or Colbert's response to said interview, right?
Okay.
It's has everything to do with the tone and what was meant by Colbert. Okay, and I'll dive into that a little bit more because the question really is Colbert joking when he went into this monologue when he said okay, here I go against you, right? Was it joking? Now I would argue by the tone of his voice, his presentation, and everything that was coming out of his mouth, he truly feels it and has this complete just despises Trump, right? And then labeled it as jokes. I don't think that he was joking, and I think, and we're going to get into that. That's the main topic.
But I mean, haven't you ever heard somebody say, what? How many times have you said something you meant and then said no, but I'm joking, right? Look at stand-up comedians. That's why they draw from the real life. Are they jokes? Only in the fact that they're funny to us, but there's usually a pretty large modicum of truth to those jokes, and I don't think that's any exception.
You're going down the path I want you to go down with this, but I don't think you're... Let me go into a little bit more here. I said, for me, and I forget who said this best, but they said, I remember someone saying it's cowardly to throw comedy to a crowd that agrees with you. If you really want to be courageous, I guess you could say, with your jokes and everything, deliver it to a crowd of mixed opinions.
Do you think he was trying to be courageous?
No, it's what I'm saying though is it's cowardly to throw these supposed jokes to a crowd that already agrees with you while you attack a person that isn't right in front of you. And I said at least Trump did it to Dickerson's face when he said to face the nation, right? Here, he's lobbing attacks from wherever the late show is to Washington D.C. without someone sitting right in front of him, like he did.
Look. I think it was okay. If you're getting off the brave coward, yeah, okay. So the avenue that Trump took was maybe a little more brave in saying it to his face. Gets away from this whole culture of bullies that are only bullies online. Fine, but it's not like Trump doesn't have with modern day social media an outlet for response
Right.
that an equal number of people that agree with Trump aren't going to see, and the opposing party got it. All he has to do is post his response on Twitter. We've already seen that's going to get more media coverage than the Middle East. So, I don't know.
I want to dive into your comedian comment a little bit more, but to lead into that, I actually want to play Colbert's response to the outcry for him to be fired because of his monologue. So we'll go to Colbert's response to everyone right now.
Welcome to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Am I still the host? I'm still the host! Now, folks, if you saw my monologue on Monday, you know that I was a little upset with Donald Trump for insulting a friend of mine. So, at the end of that monologue, I had a few choice insults for the president in return. I don't regret that. I believe he can take care of himself. I have jokes. He has the launch codes. So, it's a fair fight. So while I would do it again, I would change a few words that were cruder than they needed to be. Now, I'm not going to repeat the phrase, but I just want to say, for the record, life is short. And anyone who expresses their love for another person in their own way is, to me, an American hero. And I think we can all agree on that. I hope even the president and I can agree on that. Nothing else but that.
Here's my thing. And this is, I think, the topic at large. I think this is the core of the issue, because I haven't even hit that yet, on what my problem is with this whole get-up on Stephen Colbert and what happened in this whole situation. So I compare comedian apologies to scientist apologies, like I mentioned last week. And not so much scientist apologies, it's their reasoning for when they're proven wrong, right? So let's take a jump back to scientists, right? Scientists believe a certain thing, like the Big Bang Theory is what was the cause of all creation. Well, quietly, they've been saying now for the past couple of years, that's not true. After looking at it and investigating it and seeing how things play out, we realize that was wrong, and we're moving on to this next theory. Well, they're never wrong. You can never prove a scientist wrong because everything is just theory. So even when you do prove them wrong on something, they say, well, science is an evolving field, and things always progress, and we always find out new things. So you can't ever pin them down, So it's like trying to hold on to something slimy. You just can't do it, Well, that's the same thing with comedians, and this is the biggest problem I have with comedians. And I'm going to point out a good example of a comedian, one of my favorites, that will stand against the tide and go against this type of behavior. But comedians, by and large, like Stephen Colbert, like Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and everything, which The View reacted to this whole situation.
I wouldn't call Joy Behar.
I think she does comedy tours or something like that. My problem with them is that they go on a serious rant like this. Then when they get criticized, they label it that they were joking, and they hide behind this curtain that, we were just, it's a joke, people, get over it. Like, I wasn't being serious about it, but clearly here he was being serious about what he was saying.
Which, so good for him for calling it what it was.
What?
Well, saying I wasn't joking. I'm not. Well, no,
he didn't say that.
Well,
he didn't apologize because he said he said they were jokes. That's the point. And yeah,
I think he called them insults though.
Well, he said I
had a few choice insults.
Choice insults, but he referred to it at some point in that video as jokes too, I believe. So, but that's exactly what happened on The View then, was Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and some of the other ones I don't even know their names because they aren't very famous. But they were doing exactly this. They were saying that, there's a... Let me get back to that in a second. But they were saying that they were jokes, and comedians can jump behind this shield of, well, they were just jokes, and not actually take responsibility for some of the things that they say. Now, one of the things that Whoopi Goldberg said during the View's segment on this is...
In America, if you read the Constitution, it does say you're allowed to say what you want to say. Right. Whether I like it or not, as I am allowed to say whatever I'm going to say, whether you like it or not. Right. And that keeps us all fair and balanced. Right. Because you can do it, and I can do it, and we're good. We don't have to like it, but we can do it.
I always find it funny that the left is against the Constitution until it benefits them during a discussion.
Okay, well,
you know what I mean?
There's where we start agreeing that they pick and choose. I mean, there's just no consistency to the movement at all on any level. It's fickle. It's always changing in their, even if they accidentally end up agreeing with us, it's only when it benefits them. Look, my whole thing is, I watch right-wing, debates all the time, and I see the left trying to shut the other down because, words hurt, and you hear all this stuff, this crap about trigger warnings and safe spaces and all this other garbage. And, look, at the end of the day, words, whatever happened to sticks and stones? Mm-hmm. You learn that as toddlers. When did that, there was a comedian that I really enjoy listening to sometimes, and he said, when did that stop being relevant? And look, I look at this the same way. Do I like what he said? No. Did it make me laugh? I wish it didn't. But one or two did a little, and, whether I find it funny or not, I'm just not going to give it the attention that he wants it to get, because it is just words. My feelings are not hurt. I don't feel triggered. He said some mean things about the president. It's going to either affect or not affect the type of people and the amount of people who want to continue watching his program. Mm-hmm. That is, in my mind, enough.
Here's a comparison, though. One of my favorite comedians is Dave Chappelle. Okay. And I was watching one of his Netflix specials. There's
the new one that came out.
Yeah. Okay. There's like 2 parts to it, 2 episodes, or however you want to label those. And the one, he said something that was pretty nasty, right? And the crowd started like gasping, I guess you could say is the best word for it. And he goes, his reaction was, all right, buckle up, people, because the night's only getting started with what I'm about to say. Like, he took responsibility for it. He's like, I understand that you don't like what I'm saying here, but guess what? It's only going to get worse from here, or at least the same type of level of, like, offending
I like to take a millennial.
Exactly. So in this case, he's, Dave Chappelle is like, yeah, I'm offending you. That I'm taking a real look at life and dissecting it to make humor, and that's what's going to happen here. Whereas Stephen Colbert is a comedic source. He comes from the Comedy Central channel, with what he was doing. He pretended to be a Republican on his show for how many years, as opposition to the Daily Show's very liberal bent and everything. And he's delivering this monologue in a very comedic way every night, except for this one where he goes, I mean, seriously, if you watch the whole monologue, because out of 12 minutes of monologue, this clip that we watched originally started at the 10-minute mark. He was saying the nastiest stuff about it.
He did. And look, he's not a political figure. He's an entertainment, figure. At the end of the day, as long as he doesn't break any laws, who cares? Look.
I care about our culture.
Oh, so
and
do
I think that's what it always comes down to for me is.
But I think our culture was going downhill long before the monologue
because of things like this.
Well, sure.
Look, it comes down to all this. There's so many different angles that come into this in regards to different things. I mean,
if we want to solve the problem that you have with that and the effect it causes socially, Republicans need to start getting more involved and taking back the media.
Yes.
And Hollywood. I mean, all the biggest mouthpieces are owned by the left side, so I'm not surprised.
No, we're losing one right now.
Right, and I'm not surprised when stuff like this gets put out there, because I know who's controlling the media and I know who's controlling entertainment and Hollywood and all the biggest megaphones in our culture. The solution to stopping things like this, or at least getting the opposing view out there, on this level is. Why haven't Republicans taken a bigger step, let's say conservatives, taken a bigger step towards taking media back.
Mm-hmm.
Or not back, but becoming an equal partner in that. You know, what's stopping them really?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the solution. Trying to shut him down for...
Okay.
I know you're not... Look, I know
Yeah.
you're a libertarian. I know you believe in free speech and you're not advocating that at all. But at the end of the day, do I have a problem with what he said? Sure. Yeah. I don't like what he said. But that plays more to my personal biases being against what I believe in.
I guess maybe I'm having a hard time getting across where my problems lie with this. Because, again, it's not about anything that he or the other two said. Or I guess Dickerson really didn't say anything that would have offended anybody.
What I'm getting is a lack of... It creates... It's a mouthpiece that's loud enough that it's having an effect on our culture that results in the average person having less respect for the office of the presidency.
Yeah, I mean, but it's more so about the reactions of everybody involved in taking a critical look at this situation, right? Because, for instance, had anyone said anything remotely close to this while Obama was in office, it would have been a firestorm.
Great.
You know? So there's a higher
Conservatives are more level-headed. They have more self-control when it comes to...
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a higher amount of hypocrisy involved in going into this situation here, where he is going to get away with saying this kind of stuff that another person, I think, would have been pulled off the air before that segment was ended on the live version, right? Or whatever it was.
Agreed. But if conservatives and right-leaning people had as much a stake in media as the left does now, in equal part or more, it would be the opposite. We could have gotten away with saying things about Obama and, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I don't see people actually going to do that. Like,
I agree. I think that's the problem. Why does the left continue to control all the biggest mouthpieces of our generation after we've established that is the case?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if years go by and it kind of happened over time because nobody was, you know, the conservatives weren't paying attention, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. But, I mean, pretty much, there's nobody I listen to that hasn't come out and said, you know, this is the problem. So why isn't anyone doing anything about it? It's not like there's no right-leaning people that aren't into, you know, media design and... you know, look, they're just so why aren't any of them making it, and what does it take to make that happen? I think that needs to be a thing.
Well,
why can I turn to any, you know, not have any cable, turn on any news channel, and there is a liberal, there is a liberal, there is a liberal, there is a liberal, but I have to have cable and a special package to get the Blaze.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Why aren't there more accessible, large media outlets run by conservatives?
Yeah, and Fox is...
It's not like there aren't funny conservatives out there, because there are some funny conservative comedians.
Yeah, absolutely. Steven Crowder,
sure,
comes to mind.
Well, not even politically, you know.
Yeah.
You know, people that just and conservative on the social end. I don't know where they stand politically, but you know, even like George Carlin back in the day. you know what I mean? You know, he would have been making fun of these whiny snowflakes the same as everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a very
he was
funny
liberal.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think there needs to be a bigger push to get conservative thinking into a easily accessible media outlet and start taking back, you know.
Well, I wasn't going to do this, but I think I want to bring in some clips from The View on what they were talking about into the final podcast. So I'll pull those in as I'm talking about them here. Yeah, I think it's a horrible show. And my joke about The View...
Is Candace even on that anymore?
No, she's not. No, Jedediah is... Bila or whatever.
Yeah, so there's really no conservative voice on that show anymore.
Jedediah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Funny how that's the only one that keeps getting rotated.
Which is what my running joke is on The View. There's a reason why it's not called Views.
Yeah.
Right? With different perspectives. It's The View.
Yeah, because every conservative gets chased off.
Yeah, exactly. So, Joy, okay, let's attack Joy first on this one, because she attempted to use... and leverage this late show segment to also take down Bill O'Reilly.
Point, Wolf, and then I'll get shut up. Bill O'Reilly got kicked out because of sexual harassment.
Totally different.
It's an act. Mm-hmm. Speech is not an act. Let's get that.
Like what she was doing in the clip was going after Bill O'Reilly for getting fired for sexual harassment. So she was comparing the situations of firing Colbert over saying something as opposed to Bill O'Reilly actually doing some sort of sexual assault, which hasn't been proven, hasn't come out with any details on that. The only thing that people can point to is that he settled lawsuits. But if you actually talk to big companies about the lawsuits that they settle, because there's just no going away, you're going to end up spending more money in the actual judicial process than you would on a settlement.
Right.
It makes sense. I don't think that there's any evidence there of Bill O'Reilly doing anything. But Joy used this opportunity to go out in left field and pull Bill O'Reilly into this. It was ridiculous.
I like to hear Tucker better anyway.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing is Bill is a very middle-of-the-road person. He doesn't commentate on things.
Which is why I like Tucker more.
Yeah. So Whoopi Goldberg, I thought, was just completely off the base the entire time that she was talking about this. Because, like I said, she was talking about the Constitution and free speech to defend Colbert against those calling for him to be fired, and then attributed these firing campaigns to those on the right.
But the thing that always annoys me online is why do we always jump to firing everyone? Every time someone gets upset of something about anything, it's like, kick them out.
Can I tell you exactly
teach it.
why?
Don't let them apologize. Don't let them speak. Just fire them.
Because it gives people a sense of power.
Oh. What, to fire people?
Yes, to get people fired.
Oh, the viewers.
Based
on
on
online people. They're not
what
viewers.
you say. I know this very well.
Yeah, it's so annoying, though.
When clearly boycotts, firing campaigns, protesting, and destroying of businesses are a trademark of the left. Anytime someone steps out of line on the right, that's all the left does. They go after you, trying to get you fired. There's smear campaigns. Just as an example with the whole Bill O'Reilly situation, if you really want to talk about that, how about how Media Matters and the Bonner Group organized a campaign to attack his advertisers, specifically to shut him down because he didn't align with the left's values? That's what all this is about with them.
I think they go overboard. Look, I don't think anybody should be telling a company who they should or shouldn't fire. But at the end of the day, ratings are gonna dictate that. I mean, look at what happened with Tommy. That was more as a result of her personal behavior. But at the end of the day, if she loses, X amount of the original, base that does, the base that doesn't go anywhere, they're gonna let you go because that's affecting their company's bottom line.
Well, and that goes into advertisers though too, I think.
But I think going so far as to launch a campaign to get somebody fired, look, you just lose interest and you find your information and your entertainment elsewhere. What you want, if enough people feel the way you do, will probably happen on its own.
Yeah. I don't agree with anyone on the right or left doing these types of campaigns. But here's another thing with Whoopi and Joy. They compared Trump's serious private joke about the grab her by the know what comments to Colbert supposedly joking public comment about Trump's mouth being a you-know-what holster for Putin.
The same people who are upset with him were not upset with that Access Hollywood tape about the president. He's a comedian. The president of the United States was much cruder in what he said that day, and also the implication being a sexual assault.
Yes.
This is a joke.
Well, Trump's comment was made in private and was recorded and was made public, whereas Colbert's monologue was specifically public to gain that attention. I mean, look, not saying that what Trump said in private was good.
No, but all they've really established is that men talk like pigs in general on both sides of the fence.
But we'll defend one over the other just because of political affiliation. Let's see here. I also said that
Joy and Whoopi, they're all emotion, no facts.
They're horrible. Yeah.
That there's no substance to what they have to say. It's how they feel. I'll give them that. I'll respect that. Fine. There's absolutely no basis 90% of the time for anything they're saying. It is pure conjecture and pure emotion.
Yeah.
Not based in any kind of reality at all except for their own.
Yeah. I guess Whoopi she alluded to in this clip that she has had campaigns by people on the right or what have you to have her fired off of The View and everything. I'm sure that there has been. I'm sure that there's idiots on the right.
I don't think anybody on the right is trying to say that. Yeah, exactly. Is trying to say that
idiots on the left.
We don't have, our fair share of uneducated people on the right. But
the fact is, with this one, with the Colbert segment, for her to launch into this attack, like the right is the only one that goes on these campaigns to have people fired. I guarantee you by the end of the month, they're going to align with someone's opinion of wanting someone fired for saying something or want them impeached. Who would that be, for something that they said?
I think where we'll find commonality on this issue, because obviously, I don't care as much about, but I think where we will find commonality is the one thing, well, among the, let's say the top 5 things when it comes to politics that I absolutely abhor is contradiction.
Yes.
I can't stand it. I can't stand when people are just absolute, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but,
well, contradiction in the situation leads to hypocrisy in the speaking.
Hypocrisy is actually what I'm looking for. There you go. There's the word. And yeah, I mean, in general, there's absolute hypocrisy on both sides of the fence. I can't stand that.
I hear you. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, in regards to, what I was talking about what I find most important being culture and everything, I think what I'm really trying to get at is that, first of all, a couple of years ago, I really tried to push for the Blaze, to be a part of the Blaze as either a producer or on-air personality or what have you, wherever they could find a fit for me, because that was my dream job. At the time, my video that I put online was a solution to Glenn Beck's question, which is how do we effectively reach younger people through culture to talk about politics rather than hitting them with politics, right? And I think that's the biggest problem that we have, because I agree with him on that. I came up with that video and I put it out there on how we could leverage social media and some other marketing techniques to reach out to, people through culture and everything. Now, in this case here, the obstacles that we have to overcome are unfortunate for people like us, right? Because people idolize Hollywood stars. Well, people idolize Hollywood stars like Scarlett Johansson, Mark Ruffalo. I'm going through all the Avengers because that's what the stance that they take. And they look at them and they think, Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff like that with climate change, and it just gets ridiculous because these people leverage
climate change while he's on his yacht.
Or his private planes going around to talk about climate change. These people leverage a spotlight that people like you and I don't have. And I have one that's more so than the average person here, just because I went through the effort of setting up a YouTube channel and everything, to spout things using their popularity to reach more people that other people don't have, right? And should they not do that? Look, the ability to do something doesn't mean that you should do it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Do you know why they're so successful, whereas the right is struggling so much when it comes to younger people?
Well, there's many reasons for that, I think, but go ahead.
Well, I think the biggest one is the left focuses on social issues, the right focuses on facts and economy and things like that. And at that age bracket, social issues is all that matters to those kids. I mean, think back to high school. You didn't care about economics. You cared about who was most popular. You cared about what was going on in Hollywood. So, look, I know the right has this desire to grab these young people and educate them in politics, but at the end of the day, realistically, I think that's the wrong approach. Without putting too much thought into it, because young people don't care about politics on the level they care about social issues. They never will.
And what I find interesting as a libertarian stance on most social issues is, okay, so the left feels...
to me, the voting age should be 25. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, on the left, right, they care about these social issues, and they throw an emotion behind it, and they start defending it, right? In my case, or in a libertarian's case, we don't care that much about social issues. So how do you make people care about not caring about social issues?
You don't.
You can't.
Not at that age.
You can't.
That's
why
I
don't think it's impossible at all.
Yeah, right. So, trying to reach young minds about, to turn them to conservative values and away from Hollywood, good luck.
Yeah. That's an uphill battle.
The bottom line is, how do the question they're asking is wrong. The question should be, how do we target the youngest crowd that is old enough to care about politics, which isn't, it's 25 plus. It's always going to be 25 plus, right? probably 5 years of school at the minimum once they've changed their major, which most people do, and a year or two to work and realize how hard life is.
Yeah.
Then maybe start helping educate them on, well, this is why your life's hard. This could make it better. Do you understand? It's fine. But they're trying to target these high school, crowds, with these, with Milo, with Tommy and stuff like that. And, you're just not going to win over social issues at that age.
Yeah.
It's not about real life.
I hear you. So, can I tell you a real quick story?
Please.
I thought it was pretty funny. We were just listening to the radio, and a Christian message came on during a radio ad, and they were talking about this one. Who on TV has like 19 kids? It's like a family. It's a real family. It's a Christian family. They have 19 kids. I don't think it's the Duggars. Yeah, I don't know if it was them, but they were talking about how to, parent better and everything. And we didn't catch the rest of the message because we just started laughing so hard at the first instruction that they give, which is, instead of yelling at your kids when they do something wrong, whisper.
Yeah, okay.
So,
that sounds great.
So today we were laughing the whole time because when we started to scold our kids, or when my wife started to scold the kids, I was like, whisper. Right? So
and then she yells at you.
No. So she says something to my one daughter who's in the other room. I was like, "Don't you make me say it again. I swear I'm going to come."
Funny how when you have to whisper it, it gets much more volatile.
Yeah.
It was, go to your room. If you keep this up, I swear to God, I'm going to kill you.
If you really want to try something just to see how hilarious it is as parents and try that, I guarantee you're just going to end up, which might diffuse the whole situation, is you're just going to end up laughing at each other so hard at the situation because it is seriously funny.
I've got a temper.
I know,
my
same
wife
here.
is Latina.
But okay.
There's no whispering in our house.
But it actually turned out pretty funny. So, all right. So I want to thank Brant for joining me again. He's pretty regular with me. I really always appreciate him coming on. If you want to follow along, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I probably should have mentioned it a couple times in between there too. But if you're interested, you could always find me at the Generation Y Conservative on Facebook and YouTube. You can search for both of those. Quick reminder again, I have to throw this out there because I think that this is very important for content creators. On Facebook, hover over following and go down to turn on notifications so you can be notified when we go live. I know that you won't see it in this edited version on podcasts, on YouTube, I'm sorry. But we ran into some streaming difficulties and the Facebook Live shut down on us, so everybody that was watching is going to have to watch the YouTube version to catch up on what we did talk about. But this will notify you when we go live on Facebook, so you can always tune in because it's not always scheduled at the same time anymore. The most important part is that the video goes up on YouTube and is also aired on KLRN Internet Radio from 3 to basically 6 p.m. on Sundays. So that's where you can find the audio version of this. You can also find the audio version on Google Play and Stitcher and listen to those there. Also on YouTube, what I want you to do is head over to that channel and hit subscribe for me so you can tune in and catch all the videos. I'll be splitting these up into smaller segments as well as the whole podcast. And I want you to click on the small bell icon on the channel there because that will notify you when a new clip is up, because with so much content out there right now, content creators like myself and others will just get drowned out by the mass amount of avalanche of content that's out there. I mean, it's just billions of hours of whatever, You can hear geese in the background.
It sounds like they're right out.
You can also find me on Twitter and interact with me on Twitter with the handle at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end, and find me there. So again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Have a great night, and God bless America.